Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Good evening. Welcome to Soul, with best-selling Texas author and sacred site traveler, Teal Gray. Coming to you on WBHM-DB Radio. Teal, what's on for tonight?
Good evening. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Soul. I'm your host, Teal Gray. We are coming to you live on WBHM-DB Radio out of Birmingham, Alabama. Tonight, we are really bringing you somebody wonderful to enlighten your mind. We have Mark Elliott Fults with us tonight. We're going to focus on him as a metaphysical energy technician. He does so many different things, but that's what we're going to focus on tonight. And welcome to the show, Mark.
Well, thank you for having me, Miss Teal.
Well, listen, you are an amazing artist. You've illustrated a number of my books, and you have done so many pieces of art that I know people, when they see them, they always are attracted to it because it has such an energy, as what we're going to talk about tonight, to each piece. You know, each piece feels like it's alive. And I know that's something that you put into your art, but you're also a very good writer. And you have one of the best, and the only one I've ever seen, an online ghost tour, like a ghost walk that you did, and then you put that online. And so that is something I definitely want to talk about, how people can get to that later in the show. But tonight you're going to be talking to us about energy. And of course, being energetic beings in, a body, that's something that a lot of people, they don't really make that connection of what they're dealing with moving through this world as an energetic being. So I think people are really excited for you to talk to them about that tonight.
Wonderful. Yes, I've been doing this a long time because I'm going on 59, and I trained in metaphysics when I was 18. So I've been at it a little while.
Yeah.
And
let me ask, was this something that you sort of always had with you from childhood on, or is it something that came to you later in life?
Well, when I was little, my mother's mother and my mother were very psychic, and I was very psychic. I didn't know what all to do with it, but I was very psychic. But I was raised in a very religious background that, didn't allow for that. So, it was kind of the thing I had to hold, you don't tell,
Right.
what you're saying or here, And, but when I was 18, I decided to really delve into it, and I joined a group and trained. But it still, it took a while for it to set in because, it's one thing to practice it, but then it's another thing once it connects in.
Mm-hmm.
And back when I was 30, I was attacked in a random act of violence and died twice out of that. And during that experience, I had 2 near-death experiences. And one of them was so, when people talk about the Akashic level, when you start to die, you start downloading. Your brain records about 3 million hours, I think it is, of information. So when you die, you start to download all of that, just, into the universal brain, basically. And the experience I had, I'd been trained before in doing personal Akashic work, because your brain, you have at the bottom of your brain, basically, is where you have your Akashic level, which means all of the information from thousands and thousands and thousands of people whose energy and information is in your DNA, it's in your brain. And there's the personal Akashic, and then when you die, you download into a universal brain Akashic, which is just gigantic. And so when I came back from that experience, I just started working. I reclaimed what I remembered about getting to the Akashic level, and then I started doing all my artwork from there. And a lot of people think if you do the Akashic level, just getting there is the ultimate, and it's not. It's you go there and you work. Out of that, I became an artist. I became a songwriter. I write books. I've been an actor. I've been, anything in the arts. I create very unusual things for people. I just have a nonstop creative flow.
That's for sure. And I've heard that happens sometimes when people have gone through a near-death experience, that it fires now different parts of your brain in a certain way that it didn't before. And it sounds like that's exactly how it opened up and blossomed those sectors in your brain for you.
Yes. And actually, when I tell them I was attacked and, died twice out of it, they go, oh, and I go, well, no, really, it's the best thing that ever happened to me in the long run. I mean, I have a lot of damage from it, but it just opened up the world to me because, you start looking at everything differently. And since I was trained in some energy stuff, now that I work in a metaphysical store, you use your energy. I call myself an energy technician. And if I don't have my energy field in working order, how can I help somebody else with their energy?
Good point.
And we have to understand energy from where is it coming from? How is it happening? Because we have the heart, the earth has a heart, basically. The earth is a self-regulatory system. And the center is the heart, the magma, the vibration and the heat sends out energy, and that energy goes into our atmosphere. The earth creates its own air, water, everything. And when it has a hiccup, we have an earthquake. But it's a living, breathing being, but there's energy constantly coming out of the center of it. And that creates electromagnetic bands that we call dimensions. And then we have, our system has the heart, and from our core, that's our energy. And then we have an electromagnetic field, which we call the aura, which kind of replicates what planets do. It's a circular sphere around you, and your little electromagnetic sphere goes down those electromagnetic dimensional bands all the time. You cross through them, go through them, and then when you die, your electromagnetic plasma form that is a complete, it's a somniferous ether material, so it's a recording plasma. So your spirit is actually a plasma copy of you in everything, every way, form, and fashion. Everything is replicated in it. The way it functions, the brain, everything. And when you die and the body falls away because it quits vibrating, then we pull through that, and then we're just an absolute electromagnetic being with a plasma shell. And then when you transition, you basically download into the universal brain. And then that energy that's you, there's two forms. Your soul comes from an older source. Your spirit is who you are. And that's new information. And it's recorded in your brain. And then when you die, you download into that. And that's like adding a new book into the library. And then your soul goes back to where it was. And, but while we're living, if you're metaphysical, you have to understand your energy, what is it doing, and when you interact with spirits, that's what they are. And you have to have your system working to where you can hold everything at arm's length and look at it and read it like a CAT scan. But then, so you don't get infected with it, you have to have your little boundaries, and you can turn your stuff up or down. You have to understand all of that stuff. And I deal with a lot of metaphysical people who do energy work on other people, but they've never had a connection with their own energy. So sometimes it can warp the energy they're dealing with because they don't comprehend. But see, when I was trained years ago, excuse my expression, but my butt would have been handed to me on a platter if I tried to do energy work and didn't understand the basics. So,
it can even be a dangerous thing, because they're not understanding how to create their own boundaries and not absorb all of the negativity that they're, working out of somebody else.
Yes. And a lot of energy workers they're good at pulling things out. They just don't know how to ground it and get rid of it so they don't get it. So a lot of healers are very sick. A lot of really good healers are very sick because they've taken in the illness off of the person. You can learn how to process that, filter that. So you don't do that. You just become the conduit. You just become the hallway that you pull it off of them and pass it on. And so it's actually healthier for you to know how. And I deal with a lot of course, I do paranormal stuff. I do ghost hunting and stuff. And I'm around a lot of people who do that. And there's a couple that come to me that she's always freaking out because she'll go somewhere, come back with something will attach into her energy field because she has no protective system. And I've told her how to do it, and she hasn't done it. Right. And then she'll come back and go, so be home. And I thought, well, of course it did.
You gave it an opportunity. Those are usually the people who tell you, oh, no, I got it. I know how to do it all. I got it. And I'm thinking, just like The Secret, you don't got it.
Sometimes they ain't got it. And but when I see people who work in the field who are doing all these bells and whistles and stuff to sound like I got it, but I can sit there. I can tell by looking at your field. It's your energy field. If you're really doing it, because I can see your auras, which is very common. I can see the colors, and you can tell. And so they can't pull anything over on me. But sometimes, I'll hear them doing things. I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And but it's not my business to sit there and say, knock it off, until you learn what to do. They have to be the one
to control it. You can teach them, but they have to be the one to actually follow through. And I do agree with you. It's a bit interesting that somebody who does work that understands it enough, whether by experience or training or luck, can actually be effectively helpful to other people, but then yet they disconnect and don't even think about doing that clearing for themselves. It's kind of always interesting. Yeah.
Oh, no. And I know you have been on some extravaganzas before where you've seen people who, they're challenging to the spirits, and as soon as something happens, they need a diaper and they run,
Right.
And, but if they go to these things and they really run into something that can infect their system, not necessarily a possession, but, you can get, it's like putting your hand in tar.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that stuff, you can, it just is gross, and
Yeah.
they don't have any protection, and then they'll go in and challenge things. And
Mm-hmm.
then they wonder why, they have issues.
Right.
And so, I think just basic working principle for your personal life, and then if you do paranormal stuff, definitely if you do paranormal stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you need to understand your energy and how you're protecting yourself, turning it up and down, so that you can go look at things and then come out without things jumping off of you like fleas.
Yeah, and bringing them back home to your family and into your car, everything. And I try, you've heard me before, teach people about they do all these things, and even if they'll go so far as to cleanse themselves and smudge themselves or do protective things, they never clean their equipment. And I'm like, well, and I can tell when they haven't, and I'll ask them, you need to please cleanse this, or tell them, hey, you've been to somewhere very negative before, can you cleanse this, because this space is not that, and you're going to bring that old energy from a whole nother location into this, and and some of them just they just don't understand how important it is. So
they're a little late.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah.
And something we conquer all the time is people come into the metaphysical store and they want to cleanse their house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everyone knows, well, you get smudge and you smudge. They don't understand that, you're setting a boundary. You're resetting a boundary and changing the locks of the keys so the spirit can't get back in. So if you smudge it without using the other elements like earth, air, fire, water, the spirits may go out until, because they can't handle the smell, but they'll come back afterward.
Right.
Unless you do the smudging and do a circle of energy through your house that you draw with water and salt, and you intend and energy, and you draw a circle, then you smudge it out, and then they can't come back in because you've drawn a circle.
And also, what I'm always telling them to remember to open up a door, a window, something, because otherwise you're not driving it out. You're just chasing it around, making it mad. And they don't understand, well, it's a spirit, it's a thing, how is that happening? And I said, well, this is how I believe, and you may have a different thought on it, but once something has come into your space, it's interacting with you in a physical way. And so while, yes, it can transcend and go through walls and different things, it doesn't. It's now living as physical in your space, and that's how it's operating now. So you have to treat it as something such as that.
Yeah, you have to treat it as something foreign that you want to eject, because what happens with a lot of haunted houses is you have a relationship with that spirit or that energy. Not everything's a spirit, but not everything's bad. It's that's not a spirit. It's just that think about how many people have lived and died, and there's just millions and millions and
all
millions
these
and millions of stuff. If you could really see what's out there, you would freak. And but you have a relationship with that. If it's in the house, and maybe it was there before you, maybe it's found a way to get in there, and that it feels safe, so it's there, and you happen to be in its space, or it could be something, because spirits have to eat. Because everything that lives has to have an energy source and a food source. And they learn how to get energy. And I tell people, well, in our physical self, we have chloroplast in our cellular makeup. And it doesn't do a whole lot while we're alive. But when you're dead and you have this electromagnetic plasma shell that has all this chloroplast in it. Plants use chloroplast to turn sunlight and heat and energy into food. So the spirit has a delivery system that it can feed. So all it has to do is, if it finds out it can scare you and you're going to sweat or put out energy, it'll open a cabinet.
Yes.
It'll make a noise.
Exactly.
It will do something very minor just to scare the crap out of you.
So
and then it absorbs that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So,
like,
so it's like going to get a hamburger. You know what to do to go get a hamburger. So
Mhm.
it's like it's driving up beside you, you know, coming up on a roller skate, scaring you, and taking the food and going.
yeah.
And you
even
have to understand.
even a spirit with no evil intent has to feed. And so that's
Has to
another
eat.
thing people don't understand is it can be a lovely spirit, nothing evil in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
However, the feeding off of you can drain you and make you ill because you're still losing your energy to something outside yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's they almost pick it up magnetically, and they have to eat just like we do. Because if you don't, what happens is the plasma becomes thicker, more congealed. You know, like if you have Jello. Jello, if it gets cold, it congeals. If it gets warm, it becomes fluid. So if they don't eat, they become more
ethereal,
congealed, slower. And in the cold weather, that's why ghost activity closed down, because they congeal. And when it gets warm weather, and if you have central heat and air, they're all fine during the winter. But you know, they like heat like we do. But the cooler they are, the colder they are, the slower they are, the less food that they know how to eat. Eventually, the material thickens up, and eventually they get reabsorbed. So, I mean, you know, even spirits from murder victims and stuff like that, if they don't know how to function, but they're around, eventually they'll be reabsorbed into the magnetic fields, and they'll go on. It's just that, you know, at that time when they're thinking like we do, you know, if they go, I don't want to go on, or I'm not really dead. Because I tell you what, when you're dying, your brain is just, you're very conscious. And so when you die, you're a vibration and a frequency with a very clear consciousness. But if the spirit has a problem where they don't know that what's happened to them, or they're scared of the process and they don't understand what's happening, they can get, you know, lost a little bit, or they can say, I'm not leaving, this is my house, or I'm not dead, I can think, you know, which they're not dead. So you can come into so many different circumstances. And as a psychic, when I go to a circumstance, I do so much meditation. I do meditation every day and prayers, but I'll do a week's worth of stuff before I go into someone's house and see what's happening. There's one here I've got to go look at where the couple that owned it had to move out. They have two houses, so they moved out of this particular one because the spirit was mad and threw one of them across the attic.
Wow.
So they don't have any protective system. If something can touch you and grab you and all that, you can, you know, you're having an issue that you have to reassert yourself. And if they can grab you, that means your protective system is not working.
It's just par.
So,
well, let me stop you right there, because I want to come back to this and talk more. But we have to take a short break and hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back in just a minute. Hang in there.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Paratalk Radio is your one-stop for all things paranormal, the unknown, and the supernatural. Join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central for discussions and guests on topics such as ghosts, hauntings, Bigfoot, UFOs, and more. This broadcast is rated M for mature and intended for listeners over 16 on paratalkradio.com.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Soul to Soul. I'm your host, Teal Gray, and we are coming to you live from Birmingham, Alabama on WBHM-DB radio. We are talking tonight with Mark Fultz about metaphysical energy and the use of it and how people, even in the field sometime, really don't know how to manage that. And Mark, so I want to take you back. We had to pop off at a time when you were saying there was a house where you are that the people had moved because this entity, this force, had thrown one of them across their attic.
Yeah, very angry. And because the person's field is not good, they couldn't, it was able to really grab them and throw them. And that can happen. It happens so rarely. But you can be bit, you can be scratched, and you can be thrown. And not, but very rarely. But I'm going to go into their house at some point when I get a chance and look at it and then get it out of there, because the people have a child. But lucky for them, each partner has a house. Mm-hmm. And so they just moved to the other partner's house, and this one's been sitting empty for like 2 years because they're terrified. And because they just took him and threw him. And I've been pushed. I've been bit. When I was young, before I had my system up, I got bit by a poltergeist, which just enjoyed the hell out of it. It scared the crap out of me. You can hear it laughing. So
wow.
I was like, it chased me up the stairs and bit the back of my cat. Wow. And it looked like a 2-year-old had just bit me. I was like 18, 19 years old. And but it just wanted to scare me. And it worked. It didn't hurt. It just freaked me out.
And you gave it a nice dinner.
Oh yes. And it got a good laugh and a good sip of energy out of it. But it taught me, what am I going to do to keep things from being able to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And if your field is working correctly,
Mm-hmm.
then you keep them out. I mean, it's like you have two systems that I use. One, you have your aura sphere, and then you also you create a boundary around that, which is another sphere, but it looks like a circle when you're doing it. And so the one that's a circle around the sphere is your boundary, and that will stick out 2 or 3 feet away from you, and that will keep things from getting to you. And then, but you also have to set up your aura so that it's functioning and clear it. And and I actually did this with someone the other day, which I have a little meditation I do, a simple circle personal meditation. And you set up the boundary and in your mind's eye, and then you do the sphere. You cleanse your aura. Then you imagine a little knob, sort of at the away from your right temple, and you can, when you need to, you can turn up your boundary. Go 1, 2, 3. Turn it up. Turn it down. You never turn it off. You keep the boundary going all the time, and it will filter your stuff and keep you protected. And then if you need to do metaphysical things, you can go 1, 2, 3, turn your energy up, do your energy work, and after it's over, you go 1, 2, 3, and turn it back down and dim it down, not turn it off. And you can have total recall of your electrical magnetic field. And if you just do that, then, everything else you do is in a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're keeping things out, you're filtering things out, and you can sit and meditate, or even if you can't meditate, if you have that set up, you can, if you're sitting at home and you feel nervous, or you can do it, turn it up, kind of cleanse your energy, turn it back down, and then you feel calmer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because it burns out the stress and it burns out the frequency that's giving you a problem.
Yeah.
And
people don't realize that they're the master of their own force field, so to speak. And I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, my day just got crazy and it went south and it just kept going. And I always say, no. You can reset at any point in time and as many points in time as you need to in a day. Nope, this is not going well. I need to reset this energy. And you just reset yourself, and
you reset yourself.
Yeah. Well, what tips would you give people who are like, well, this all sounds great, what you guys are saying, but I still don't know what you're talking about? How could they go about, and I don't mean to give them a meditation because we can't do that in case somebody's driving. We don't want to have any callers go, well, I drove. No. I was really calm. But is there any tips you could give them to kind of, reset that, or how to, reach you and get a reading or get,
Sure.
a guide
energy
time
work.
you to energy work. Yeah.
Well, I can kind of do the basics of, since we had discussed not doing the meditation itself.
Yeah, right.
People might be driving or working heavy equipment or, but online, I put on I have a little website. And for people who want to do it, I have a personal circle meditation on my website, which is the Fat Psychic Circle Personal Circle Meditation. So Fat Psychic Circle Meditation. And that, it's a recording, and you sit there for 11 minutes, and I lead you through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one way. If you want to just do that at home and do it, there it is. The basics of it is you're having to use the entire inside of your brain, basically. So when you do a meditation with it, the thing that I take people through is, you imagine you're on a beach facing the ocean, and you listen to the ocean. The sound that the ocean is making in your head is your subconscious. You may not understand what your subconscious is saying, but when you listen to that, you're connecting to your subconscious. And then you turn all of our electrical system starts with the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, which is the third eye, and the electrical system, which is your spine. So when I tell you to sit on a beach and you're sitting on the sand and you turn the light on at the top of your head, which is turning on your neurons, because when they say to a spirit, see the light, they're turning on the neurons in their head and they can download, because you download for the pituitary gland, pineal gland, and then into the larger neuron pattern. Mm-hmm. So you sit on a beach, you turn the light on, you have the light go down into your right arm, you use that to draw a circle around you in the sand in a clockwise manner, and that's your boundary. You've just now made a sacred protective boundary that's going to be your filter. So then you sit there with that little circle for a minute, then you turn the neurons on more until the light glows bigger, and then it flows down, fills that circle until it's glowing so hot, brightly, that you become the center of a sphere of light. And when you've done that, you've just cleaned your aura. So you just sit in that for a few minutes, and then at some point, I tell people, look up to the right, and you'll see a little radio dial. And what you can do is you can turn it down, turn the light down, dim it down, or turn it up. And you can go 1, 2, 3, turn it down, 1, 2, 3, turn it up. And you've kind of, in a way, hypnotized yourself to control your energy field. And so when you're finished, then I go like 1, 2, 3, and you start to, you have the circle and the sphere. So the sphere that you just created, that you had light up, clean up all the gunk, you just go 1, 2, 3, and you start to reabsorb it, and then you wrap it around you like a blanket. You reabsorb your energy. You're not wasting energy. And then you're still sitting there in a circle of light. So that's your filter. So the little radio dial that you turn up and turn down, you can go 1, 2, 3, turn down, dim it down. You just turn your circle down so that you're not wasting energy. Mm-hmm. But it's still, but you never turn it off. So you just turn it down to dim it. And anytime if you feel like you're in an emergency or you need to meditate or you need extra help, you go 1, 2, 3, turn that little dial up, turn your light up, and, it helps you. It cleans your aura and it makes you calmer. And then when you're finished, you always go 1, 2, 3 and turn it down. And I always tell people when they're finished, you always have to open and close everything. So I tell people, do a little prayer before you do it. And then after you're finished and you go 1, 2, 3, and dim it down, then you go circle is dismissed but never broken. So you've just told your system that it's there, it's to be there at your call, at your bidding, and you turn up, down anytime you want, and but it's there, it's not off. And then you go about your day. And the meditation I do is like 11 minutes, but if you do it once a week for 3 weeks, you change your energy, because you're in, for the first time, you're in control of your energy. And you'll find out, it will open up your creativity. It will make you feel happier because it's burning out all the gunk.
Yes.
And it's not that hard to do something. But the thing I run into is before you even say to a magician, people will go, I can't meditate. Well, sit down and just listen and see if it works. If it doesn't, what's it going to kill?
Well, and it's not a one-time thing. As you say, it's a practice. So you want to keep at it, and the mind is something obviously that can be trained. And when you really learn how to work the mind, which is really the last great frontier that we're learning about, that control will, you have to learn how to be still and how to concentrate and just bring yourself back to it. And then they, do that meditation until you're really getting in the groove, because it will definitely work. It definitely will change things, but you can't just give up midway, 30 seconds in and go, oh, this is so hard, when it's absolutely not. So just as you say, keep at it, keep practicing. Maybe even I've noticed with some people that when they try different times of the day, like some people think they have to meditate in the morning, but maybe they're not a morning person. Maybe they need an afternoon or an evening meditation time or something. Just work with it, just keep trying and make that happen.
Well, I mean, if you want to build a muscle, you go to the gym and you do repetition to strengthen that muscle. Mm-hmm. If you want to increase and make a strong electrical system, you work that muscle, you work that energy, you have it, and it really doesn't take long to do it. Now, like I said, after 3 or 4 times, you can just go 1, 2, 3, turn it up, 1, 2, 3, turn it down. Mm-hmm. But until then, and then I work. That's just a basic meditation. That just helps you control your energy. And then I work on meditations for the Akashic, which are more in depth, but once you've done it a few times, you can go into your subconscious, personal Akashic level you have in your brain. And because we have our personal Akashic, then we have a connect. Once you die, you go into the bigger Akashic level, which is like a big neuron pattern, a big brain. And so, once you do Akashic stuff, then you begin to really work. You open the avenue to delve into the things that are hidden in your brain, because we have, like I said before, thousands of people's memories and thoughts that they put into your gene pool before they put in the gene pool. We have their DNA. Well, we also have their memories. And that's how you get deja vu sometimes. Is sometimes if a person, an ancestor, had been in a place that you're now going to, you go, wow, this seems familiar. Well, of course, it's because they were there before, and you're just experiencing that deja vu.
And even science back now, they have come on board and been like, you know what, ancestral DNA memories, yes, they're for that. Now, Mark, we're going to have to take another break and hear from our sponsors. But when we come back, I want to pick right up on this because it's fascinating. And I know you also do people who have trouble sometimes and they can't figure that out for this lifetime. It's not always ancestral. Sometimes it's from their past life. And I know that you can work with them on that, and they can contact you, get a past life adjustment. So we'll be right back, everybody. Hang on, and we'll be right back with Mark Fultz.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back. We are coming to you live from Birmingham, Alabama on WBHM-DB Radio. This is your host, Teal Gray, on Soul to Soul, and we are speaking with our very special guest, Mark Fultz, tonight, and he's been telling us about metaphysical energy, the way he uses it as a technician. And Mark, when we had to break this last time, we were talking about the Akashic records, and you were talking about meditation. We put a link up on that for that, and we'll put it up in several places tonight for the people who can get that. And so talk to us a little bit about your services and how people can reach you. Is it, what's the best way to reach you? Is it thefatpsychic.com, or how should they reach you if they want to book a reading, or book a energy clearing, or book, you do past life regressions?
Yes, I do. I do. Well, to contact me, you can contact me on Facebook. That I'm on that a lot now, which is, you can either look up Mark Fultz, Fults, or you can look up Chattanooga Chills, because I come from Chattanooga, Chattanooga Choo Choo, and so it's Chattanooga Chills, which Chills is my brand, basically, because online I have a tour called Chattanooga Chills Ghost Tour online. Mm-hmm. And it's free. Go to it, see. You can also contact me through you can send me an email. Now, I check my emails as much as I can, but my email address is Fultz Chat, so my name, FultsChat @AOL.com, and you can send me one there, but mostly Facebook is the easiest to catch me. Mm-hmm. And then to look at the meditation I have, that's the Fat Psychic
.com.
Personal Circle Meditation. If you put in the Fat Psychic Personal Circle Meditation, it'll bring you up to my website, the Fat Psychic, which, and then on there you can see the meditation that I put up. And it's just for the simple one. I'm working on the Akashic one to put on to start getting people to do that. But you need to do the basic one first. And then I'm also going to do, I can do past life regression, things like that as well, because it's in the same realm. Because once when I was saying, you create your thing on the beach and all this stuff, then you just do a basic little extra technique, and you go through a tunnel, and when you come out, you look down and see what your feet are, what you're wearing, and you'll be in a past life, which is, it can be the past lives of your people that are DNA in there, or it can be connecting to your past life from a spiritual level. Mm-hmm. And it's very effective. So I'm going to be putting that on there.
Great.
And also teaching automatic writing, because that will open up your subconscious. So
something people don't know a lot about, and it really is. I've been with you and assisted when you were doing that with boards and automatic writing. That it is a real crowd pleaser and also a thriller, and some people run screaming. So that's really something when that happens.
Yes, we were at some kind of event when I was in Texas, and I remember we were doing that under near where they had killed people, a hanging tree or something.
Yes, uh-huh.
And I remember there was somebody came up and asked a question, and I answered it, and they screamed and ran.
Yeah, because
you remember that?
Yeah, yes, I remember that very well, very well.
I mean, they just freaked.
Well,
So
in readings, though, I mean, people, I've sent you a lot of people who have booked readings with you, and you do phone readings.
Yes.
So you don't have to live in Florida. He's no longer in Chattanooga.
No.
He's living in Florida now, but you can do all these things on the phone. And you do amazing work, because there was a person that you were telling them they had a very unusual color of the room and the drapes and the carpet, and you were literally in their house. There's been a lot of different readings like that, to where you're telling them things that you could never make up or guess on, and they really love it. So I mean, you're very good at what you do.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you. That's part of the remote viewing. That also comes from the Akashic level work. You can remote view to people's houses and to places and see what they got going on.
Well,
just make sure they're wearing a robe,
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I freak people out going, tell them where the plants are, what kind of rug they've got, the table. So it's pretty fun. But I use it also
your
for
gifts are you're very, very, you have a lot of gifts. And we've been friends for quite a while, and I love how they just keep expanding for you, don't they? They just keep deepening and expanding and growing, and pretty fantastic.
Well, that's part of the Akashic. If you work from the Akashic, it's a never-ending stream of creativity for me.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've done. I've done about 3 or 4 books. You've done about 6.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine sent right here, so I'm part of like 10 or so books with illustrations and stories, and we never run into the problem of not having something to talk about.
Right.
Or do.
The problem you have is we start to talk and we create more and more projects, and I think we have about 10,000 backlog at this point,
Yeah, that's why I go project number 455,
Yeah.
But that's okay. I would rather have that many going on, because then if you need something, you go, let's do that, And, because you never know. It's like throwing something at the wall. Something's going to stick at some point.
Sure.
Right now I'm making a lot of art, hoping it's going to stick somewhere. It brings a lot of joy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I sit at the store and work, people just get fascinated. And I'm like, when I was young, I was very intimidated about drawing because it's a blank page. Now I'm fascinated with it because, I'll look at it, I'll just start doing it, and then before I know it, it's a weird finished painting, a full painting, and I'll be like, well, that's special.
Well, even in your meditation, the $2 meditation that you have up, the link that we put up, that artwork that is attached to that meditation is your original art.
Yes, and it represents the Akashic, because when you get into the Akashic, if you see hieroglyphs and stones, the stones are usually organs. You're just seeing it on a cellular level. So it looks like a rock with writing on it, but it's really the edges of your brain. And and the darker they get, the older it is, and the closer, the furthest part of your brain you're getting to.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason I have a winged person in the artwork is because, in the ancient days, when they would see spirits and entities and stuff like that, they couldn't figure out how they got around so quickly. So they figured they had wings.
Mm.
And so I have a winged figure in there, but that's just, a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
But we have so much Sumerian and Egyptian stuff in the Akashic. It's amazing. It's amazing. I want to ask what that was.
I don't know. It must have been an energy
What
burst.
was that?
They were agreeing with you, I suppose.
Yeah, something. I'm like, okay. There we go.
Wow. Well, maybe that was like our time is almost up buzzer, which is the truth. And it has flown by with you. And I so appreciate your time because I know you're so busy. You're at the shop. And if you want to, for people who are in Florida near where you are, if you want to mention the shop that you're at so that they can come see you in person.
Sure. I live in Milton, Florida, which is like 30 miles away from Pensacola, which gorgeous place. Take my word for it. I work out of a metaphysical store called Live and Let Live Metaphysical Store. I'm there usually every Saturday, and from about 12 o'clock till 6 or 7. And we do, every third Saturday, we do psychic fair. So we have like 5 readers at that time. But every Saturday, there's usually 3 or 4. And the guy who owns the store is a metaphysical practicing priest. And so, you can come in and look at energies and spells and candles and things to use. Because what candles are, they're a way to focus energy. Mm-hmm. And so if you get your energy together, you burn a candle and magnetize it and send it out. So we have candles and stones and all the typical metaphysical things. And then we have a lot of people there that, each person is different. Somebody does numerology, astrology, and then I talk to your dead people. And I'll do some card work and stuff like that, but I'll talk to your dead people. I'll look at your magnetic field and listen to who's in there. And so if you want to catch me there, then in person, I'm usually there every Saturday. Mm-hmm. And it's just been a wonderful, since I've moved to Florida, I've had nothing but a good time.
Yeah, I'm sure. And, it probably living so close to the ocean as your house is probably has really, I don't even know if you can keep up on your game because you do, but having that ocean water and energy there has got to be wonderful.
Oh, well, I go to a place called Navarre, which is gorgeous. Sugar sand, beautiful water. And in the springtime and the summertime, I make sure to get me and all of my crystals into the water. And, and it's just the Mother Earth. I mean, it's Mother. We come from the water. So it's
when it's warm enough, I think that grounding, when you can get, bare feet on the sand or bare feet even on the earth or a nice patch of grass, just to let that grounding, flow through you and down and out your feet. And I think that's wonderful healing.
And the salt in the water is grounding. So you immerse yourself in this gorgeous salt water. And, so it's just amazing.
Good deal.
And very healthy.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, Mark, we're wrapping up now. If you have any last thoughts, we so appreciate you and everybody who's listening. Any last thoughts for us or advice as we move forward?
Well, thank y'all very much for listening to me, and thank you for having me on. And I will be putting on more videos and things like that for people to learn meditations in the simplest ways possible. Mm-hmm. And you just have to conquer your ADHD.
Just keep at it. And also keep coming back to your site because you'll be uploading those things. And so we'll be looking for that. And everybody have a really blessed rest of your Friday night and your weekend. And we will be back on Soul to Soul with you on WBHM-DB radio next week. So thank you, everybody, and good night.
Peace be with you.